Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro Adventures. Because at the end of another week and the end of another poll, we've got a very good win for Star Wars Classic Adventures Volume 3 for the Star Wars Roleplaying Game, funny enough. Now we'll be going over to the desktop to have a look at that in a wee second, and as usual I'll be back at the end of the video with some other channel related stuff and some other poll related stuff. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my patrons, who this week I've been told know that that's no moon. Now these are wonderful people who I'd like to thank from the absolute bottom of my heart for their support, because they do support this channel. And they get loads of bonuses as well. They get to see these videos a week early. They get to see Patreon exclusive videos, as well as a bunch of other things which are described in the Patreon link down below. But if you'd like to support the channel, if you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's go over and have a look at Star Wars Classic Adventures Volume 3. So, this is Star Wars Classic Adventures Volume 3. It came out from West End Games for the Star Wars Roleplaying Game in 1996. Although, as with the other Classic Adventures, this is a compilation of older adventures. But, where I've had problem with the other Classic Adventures books, where they didn't feel particularly on theme, being set with different types of party and different time periods, you know, adventures set during the Galactic Civil War, being set during the New Republic era, jumping around like that, being set where you are smugglers, where you're pirates, where you're rebel agents. They just didn't seem to be usable by one party. You know, taking your player characters and running them through every adventure in the book, making the books themselves not that much use, because you're only going to get use out of one or two of the adventures, unless, like me, you hang on to these books for decades and decades and run them at random times. But in this book, it is 3 adventures set during the Galactic Civil War for rebel agents, so all of the adventures in this are usable. And there's possibly what I consider to be the most iconic Star Wars D6 adventure in here. So let's have a look at the back cover. Classic Adventures Volume 3. Riders of the Maelstrom by Ray Winninger. Danger lurks aboard the Kuari Princess as rebel heroes try to uncover the shadowy purpose between a top-secret Imperial rendezvous. But the Imperials are not the only threat in the rebels' face, as the Princess is besieged by the dreaded pirate gang that hunts this region of space, the Riders of the Maelstrom. Death in the Undercity. Beneath the surface of Calamari's majestic oceans, the tireless Quarren labour to provide ores crucial to the construction of Moncal cruisers. Recently, a series of bizarre mining accidents has slowed production to a near standstill. Now it's up to a valiant team of rebels to uncover the source of these accidents. That one's by Michael Neistel. And Tatooine Manhunt by Bill Slavicsek and Daniel Greenberg. The legendary military commander Adar Talon is believed dead. Long gone, all but forgotten, or so the Empire would have you believe. They're wrong, he's still alive, and the bounty on his head exceeds 50 million credits. But who's offering it? The Empire wants him? Do they want him dead or alive? Bounty hunters are converging from all over the galaxy. But to protect him or hunt him. Even Jabba the Hutt is interested. But why? Now the Rebel Alliance wants him, and the word is he's on Tatooine. Guess where you're going. So that's perhaps the most iconic one. Now the image on the front cover is from Riders of the Maelstrom, and I believe it's art done for the role-playing game. It's copyright 1989, so I don't think it's concept art. But the adventure Tatooine Manhunt used to use concept art by Ralph McQuarrie of the bounty hunters. Because while you're confronting bounty hunters, basically in the adventure, it's a bunch of knockoffs. You have Vodocast, the Boba Fett lookalike, IG-72, the IG-88 knockoff, and I thought that was quite funny that you got this classic piece of artwork on the cover of that for characters which are not those classic characters. But instead we've got this one, which, as I said, I believe is custom done for the Riders of the Maelstrom adventure. Now, as usual, I don't want to spoil this, so we're going to be going into details. My summary is, all of these are absolutely brilliant adventures. I've played them all. Riders of the Maelstrom is probably the weakest. It relies on lots of things happening without the players having too much choice in it. It's a bit railroady. Death in the Undercity, I think, is absolutely fantastic because it's flipping a standard adventure in reverse. Instead of the rebels being saboteurs trying to avoid authorities investigating them. In this, they are the investigators, and they're looking for what's going on, looking for who's causing problems. Most likely, saboteurs. And Tatooine Manhunt, while experienced role players might not get that much out of it, it's a little railroady in its design. I do think it's the best D6 adventure for introducing people to the system, because there's just so many classic stuff in it. It's set on Tatooine. They're going to spend a lot of their time running around Mos Eisley, including going into the cantina. They're going through the desert. There's bounty hunters who look like the ones out of Empire Strikes Back. This is all triggering things where you can look at the movies and just say, this is Star Wars. So Tatooine Manhunt is an absolute classic. But that's my summary of it. If you don't want spoilers, this is where you turn off. Anyway, carrying on inside, we've got West End Game standard design. It's very, very clean. It's very, very neat. There's a lot of artwork, which, as I've said in the past, looks slightly cartoony, but captures the action comic version of Star Wars that we're going for. Lots of heroic characters, blaster fire, etc. Inside, we've got an introduction, how to use the adventures, difficulty numbers, and balancing it, and then we're straight into the Riders of the Maelstrom. So, in this one, you start off as rebel agents, and you're on the jungle world Aeris. And basically, you're getting hunted down by the Empire. It talks about 20 stormtroopers being divided into two groups of 10. You're straight into the action, you're straight into fighting stormtroopers, an overwhelming number of them. And you have to escape through the jungle. There's lots of stuff, until eventually you reach the spaceport, and there's the Kuari Princess, a passenger liner leaving. So the players manage to smuggle themselves on board it. But as they travel, they discover that there's a lot of Imperial presence on the ship. The Kuari Princess has two Moffs having a secret meeting. And one of the Moffs has a droid who is a rebel agent, who is feeding information, although the players won't know who it is, because it's codenamed Dagger. So they'll receive messages from Dagger telling them that it's a rebel agent and they're in danger and they should be investigating these Moffs without getting found out. So that's what they think the plot is. But as time goes on, the Kuari Princess gets attacked by pirates. It goes through in very much detail everything on the ship. There's lots and lots of role-playing opportunities. When we played through it, some of the players built up NPC contacts that they use throughout the rest of the campaign. It really is that good. There's some fantastic world-settling things here, which you can keep using. But they get the message off Dagger, until eventually a bunch of pirates attack the ship. The Maelstrom Riders. As you can see how many pages we've got there, there's so much backup in the story, different things they can get involved with while they investigate the Moffs. But the pirates board the ship, and the players will find out that what they plan to do is take the liner and crash it into the base of a bunch of rival pirates. And the rival pirates happen to be backed by the rebels. So the players will get a chance to leave and warn the rebels. There might be some action on board as they seize control of the ship in the nick of time, or take starfighters to fight it off. As you can see, there's action scene there, as they defend this other rebel-aligned group of pirates, until eventually the day is saved. Of course, there's all the stuff with the different Moffs going on, whether they're going to let the Kuari Princess carry on, or whether they're going to capture those Moffs. We've got lots of background. Big Jack Targrim, the head of the Maelstrom Riders, typical Maelstrom Rider pirates. Deck plans of Kuari Princess, including very detailed areas. I do remember there being this sort of tracked thing, almost like a roller coaster within the starship, which we thought was fantastic. Big amphitheaters where they can watch performances. It really is a luxury liner, and goes into all those details. The map of the jungle where they get ambushed, fleeing across, making various rolls. The adventure is very, very solid. As I said, it's a bit railroady though. There's no way they can fight the pirates off in the initial part. There's no way they can find any of the way off the planet. It's going to keep them going. They're running from the stormtroopers onto the luxury liner, and then they're fleeing on the across the galaxy. They're involved with the Moffs. There's no chance to slip off before the pirates get there. Absolutely straight line from beginning to end of adventure. The only deviance is whether they leave the passenger liner to warn the pirates and fly starfighters to defend the base, or whether they stay on board to take control at the last minute. Anyway, we're on to the second adventure, Death in the Undercity. Now in this one, there's sabotage going on in the Undercity, the mines beneath Mon Calamari's oceans. And the players are sent as investigators, because basically it's a rebel-controlled planet. So they are aiding the authorities. This is, as I said, very much flipped the storyline on most Star Wars adventures. This isn't something which would happen until the New Republic era. The players are suddenly the authorities. They're doing this investigation. They're trying to find out what's causing these accidents. And of course, there's bad guys behind it. There are some Imperial agents in disguise as Mon Cal. They've been surgically altered, which seems a bit odd that they'd be able to breathe underwater and survive the pressure through surgical alteration, but perhaps they just avoid going in the water. They just look good enough to pass. Anyway, so they arrive at Wojansik main city dome on Mon Cal. But as they get transported there, there's lots of information about it before they arrive. They get shot down. A rival. Their vessel gets sabotaged. The autopilot's malfunctioning. They try and repair it. They've only got seconds to splash down in the water or flee in an escape pod. So somebody's already trying to sabotage them before they even arrive. They investigate what's going in the Overcity and then go to the bottom of the sea floor where the mines are, and are with the Quarren workers, trying to investigate what happens. Different layouts, casino, cantina, bar thing. They get involved in a brawl, chased across the seas, eventually taking a bathysphere personnel transport down to the bottom of the oceans. The mines built into the seafloor. They discover that some Quarren have been accused of it, and they investigate the crimes. Until eventually there's the map of the mines as well. They eventually find that it's these Mon Cal, that it's not the Quarren working against, as would be the suspicion these days, because the Quarren have been kind of made out to be the bad guys, that they will work with the Empire and all that. Mining lasers, so much detail building up Mon Calamari from the surface right down to the mines beneath the sea. But they'll eventually discover that there's these destabilization agents, Imperials, disguised as Mon Cal, and they will restore the peace, because politically the idea of it being Mon Cal or Quarren is divisive, and would make the Quarren not keen on working with the Mon Cal to support the rebellion. So, discovering that it's the Empire trying to divide them settles the planet very politically. We've got a couple of character templates, a Mon Calamari mediator, and a Quarren deep hunter. And then we're on to Tatooine Manhunt, which starts off with the players going to Quen Space Station, where so many adventures are based in the D6 system, where a Star Destroyer is sat getting maintenance. If we flip over, we will see the plan of Quen Space Station with the Star Destroyer getting maintenance. Now they are sent to meet up with a contact who is a spy aboard the Star Destroyer. They can meet up with him in the station because it is civilian. And he tells them that the Empire is out to get Adar Talon, a Clone Wars era general who worked for the Empire in its early days, but then retired and is generally believed dead. But it's been revealed that he now wants to support the rebellion. He's seen the sins of the Empire and wants to come out and put his talents to the rebellion. So the Empire has put out an absolutely massive bounty on him. and bounty hunters from across the galaxy are converging on where they think he is, which is Tatooine, to try and hunt him down. Now, much of the adventure, once we get into it, is arriving in Mos Eisley. And there's encounters, there's a new religion, we've got the layout of the Mos Eisley Cantina, because we're revisiting lots of places we've seen in the movie. There's lots of people you can, as it fleshes out, Mos Eisley, Jabba Traders, General Store, there's wreckage, Jabba's townhouse. A very nice layout there, so the players can see the layout of the city, including the crashed starship in the middle of it, and the street corner mystics. And then you get into the action. They will discover enough that Adar Talon is out in the desert, so they will end up racing the bounty hunters across the desert, going to various sites, water silos, an ambush in the cantina, exploring the wastes, City Fisk's Desert Manor, an oasis, night attack. And then when they arrive finally at the farm where Adar Talon's hiding out, they find it under attack. So the players have to join in that. We've got slaughter at Fort Tuscan, until eventually they've got Adar Talon, and they flee into space. They reach Mos Eisley with Talon, only to find 3 more obstacles in the way. The Imperial Prefect and his Stormtrooper, the final hunter ID-72, makes his move. So even when they get back, they still have to flee the planet. Unfortunately, we never really got to that part when we played through it, because we messed up this part, and Adar Talon died in the battle. We totally screwed it up. And we ended up coming out with the adventure being somewhat balanced, because we faked messages from him, making him support the rebellion. So while the rebellion didn't get him as a tactical genius supporting them, what they did get was him politically supporting them and talking down the Empire, because we faked all that, and then we faked that the Empire had killed him later. Well, not very honest, probably not very heroic, but we did what we did because he died. But anyway, the adventure itself continues as they confront the Prefect and Stormtroopers, the ID-72 bounty hunter, until eventually they flee and hopefully return him to the Rebel Alliance. You've completed Dana's mission, added another rebel leader to the growing forces of the Alliance. Now, as always with the West End Games adventures, we've got scripts to get people straight into the action. So you allocate out the roles to your different players, and they talk out as they get their briefing. You don't have to tell them what's happening, because they're telling each other. I love that. We've got some Games Master characters, Talon's Fortress, some datapad entries, including information about Adar Talon, and finally an advert for Star Wars Live Action Adventures, their live role-playing. And that's Classic Adventures. And this time, I really do think it's classic. All of the adventures are good. Ride of the Maelstrom, as I said, I think is the weakest, because it is extremely railroady. And Death in the Undercity, I think, is an underrated classic, because, as I said, it's flipping the script. It's getting you to act as the authorities. You're not rebel saboteurs. You're trying to catch the Imperial saboteurs. I like it a lot. And Tatooine Manhunt, so many iconic images. It's from Mos Eisley and Tatooine to the different bounty hunters you're confronting, really makes it something you can run for new players and just let them experience this is Star Wars. If they've seen the movies, they're going to recognize stuff out of this and get them into the game straight away. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Absolutely classic. So that was Star Wars Classic Adventures Volume 3. Some great stuff in there. And that won the poll this week with some 38% of the vote. And the only challenger, as I thought, because I knew it would be a tie-up between Star Wars and Shadowrun, was the Shadowrun adventure Dark Angel, which came in on 32%. And everything else is way behind them, with The Outcasts for the Star Trek role-playing game on only 19%, and Nightwalker the Villy Affair for Millennium's End on only 12%. Always the loser is Millennium's End. And it's a great game. I would love to show it off, but not this time, perhaps in some point in the future. But anyway, wiping all those out of the poll, we're going back to a retro RPG one. And this is going to be a pretty short poll this time, because I'm going away on my holidays with my wife soon, so to get the video out in time, I'm going to have to cut the poll short so I can record early. So, make your decision quickly this time, please, and we'll get it done. So, first up, we've got the Legacy Era Campaign Guide for the Star Wars Saga Edition from Wizards of the Coast, came out in 2009. Now, I've been covering the Legacy Era over on rpggamer.org, and I'm starting to reach the end of that. So it'll be fascinating, because I've been doing all the stats to see what Wizards of the Coast did in their professional version of this, because obviously I'm supporting the D6 version of the game. And looking through their official guide, see what they thought was worthy of commenting on, see what their stats are like. I think that'd be a really interesting thing to do, especially as I just recently covered Star Wars Saga Edition. After that, we've got the Morrow Project from Timeline Limited, and it came out in 1980. Now, I've been covering a few post-apocalyptic games recently, and that is my favourite genre. So it'd be great to cover this one and have a look how the Morrow Project handled it. I've heard so many good things, and it's been suggested by a viewer, but I've never actually looked through it for myself. After that, we've got Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 3rd Edition from Fantasy Flight Games in 2009. Now, this is another modern one, but I've covered 1st Edition and ran 1st Edition for so many years. Absolutely adored 1st Edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and was very, very impressed by the 2nd Edition. Now, I've only played a few sessions of 3rd Edition, and it seemed very, very different, but I'd like to go back and have a look and see what my memories are like, and see if it is as bad as I thought. Because it does seem to be one of these ones where they changed the game radically, like 4th Edition Dungeons & Dragons. But with 4th Edition Dungeons & Dragons, when I looked through it, it was a pleasant surprise, because they did so much right. Is that what 3rd Edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is going to be like? Very, very different from the early ones, so I didn't really want to play it, but a really well done book. We shall see if it wins the poll. And lastly, we've got Ghostbusters International from West End Games in 1989. Now, we've covered the Ghostbusters 1st Edition things, and this is the rulebook for the 2nd Edition, basically, when it came out after the Ghostbusters 2 movie came out. Now, the 1st Edition stuff was absolutely hilarious, and I've run a few of the 2nd Edition adventures for players in the 1st Edition, and they were pretty good. They weren't absolutely fantastic, but they were very, very enjoyable, so I'd like to look through the rulebook and see whether the tone was kept, which it was absolutely fantastic. Anyway, make your decision, let's see which one of those wins, make your decision quickly, and we'll get that done before I go on my holidays. Now, what else have I been up to? Well, over on RPG Gamer, as I said, I am covering the Legacy Era. We've finished the Legacy series itself, all 50 issues of that, gone through and statted them out, and we are doing Legacy War, the follow-up one, which seems to be wrapping everything up. The thing is, with the timing of my holiday, I'm going to get to reviewing issue 6, but not have the chance to stat everything out for that until I come back. So there's going to be a bit of a break there. But if you love the Star Wars D6 system, if you come over to rpggamer.org and check it out. Anyway, as usual, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.